Thank you for joining me again as we continue to read Ban This Book. Just a reminder, if you are not quite here at this part yet, please go back to the part that you're at so that you don't miss out on any of the important information in our story, especially because we're pretty close to the end. Alright, we're going to go ahead and do a little recap of what you should have listened to yesterday. The two chapters that we read were Busted and, let me find out, Right and Wrong. So, it finally happened. A couple of days ago we read where Amy Ann had come to school and Principal Banana plus the janitor was in front of her locker and all of that. So, we knew she was in trouble. But these couple of chapters, explained what happened after all of that, after she got walked to the principal's office and what happened with her parents. The first chapter just kind of explained what happened at school. We found out that she is getting suspended for 3 days, because she stole school property and willfully defined the school board. So she was suspended for 3 days. Now, one of your questions that you guys were supposed to answer was, do you think that was a fair punishment? Some of you may think that maybe she deserved more, and some of you thought that she didn't deserve what she got, maybe a little bit less than what she got. So, it's all in your opinion. I know that if this happened at our school, I think Miss Smith would have a hard time trying to decide what would happen to that student, especially if it was their first offense and all they're doing is just trying to share books with other people even though they were banned. So, I think it depends on who is in charge, and that's what she got from Principal Banana. The next chapter was called Right and Wrong, and this was basically her punishment from her parents. So, her parents were kind of wishy-washy about this, kind of back and forth on it. So, they're upset, obviously, that she's in trouble. But then they also said that they were, proud of her. They were, excited that she stood up for herself and said something that she wanted to, because they were getting worried that she never spoke up for herself, which I agree with. But then they also grounded her, and it was funny the way they grounded her, because they grounded her from reading, which some of you are like, oh, wish my parents would ground me from reading. But we know Amy Ann loves to read. This would be equivalent to if your parent grounded you from your cell phone because you won't get off TikTok to do your schoolwork. You know who I'm talking to. So, it was a very hard punishment for Amy Ann, and her little sisters seemed to really feel that Amy Ann was in trouble and that Amy Ann was really sad because they both left her alone. But then they also, I think it was Angelina. Angelina had left her favorite stuffed pony to make her feel better. So that was a big gesture from her little sister. So we're going to read the next couple of chapters. And in this one, they go back to school. The latest casualty. I was in my room that night planning my escape to the Cameron Village Library from the mixed-up files style when I heard something about Shelburne Elementary on the television in the living room. It was late. The new glow-in-the-dark alarm clock I'd gotten for my birthday said it was 11:10 p.m. and Alexis was already asleep across the room. I slipped out of bed and tiptoed down the hall to peek in at the TV. They were showing pictures of my school, while a woman explained all about the banned books locker library. They even showed a picture of me from last year's yearbook. I squeaked, but covered my mouth enough that Mom and Dad didn't hear me. On the couch, I saw my mom put her hand to her forehead, like she had a headache. Mrs. Spencer came on then. "Fourth graders aren't old enough to make decisions like this for themselves," she said. "That's why they have parents. That's why we have a school board. The school board agreed that these books were inappropriate for elementary school students, in many cases harmful. The books were removed from the library for their protection. The reporter talked about how this all began, with a school board meeting where Mrs. Spencer got them to remove the books, and then a picture of Mrs. Jones came up on the screen. At the center of the controversy is Shelburne Elementary librarian, Dr. Opal Jones, who all along has maintained that the books should remain available to all students. Mrs. Jones, decked out in a blue dress with white polka dots, appeared in a recorded interview. Every parent has the right to decide what their child can and can't read. What they cannot do is make that decision for everyone else, she said. It was the same thing she'd said at the school board meeting. Tonight, Mrs. Jones became the latest casualty in what observers are calling the battle of the books, the reporter said. The report cut to a man in a suit. Under his name, it said he was a member of the school board. Whether deliberately or through negligence, Dr. Jones let those books circulate against the express orders of the school board. As such, her contract has been terminated. Her contract has been terminated? That meant fired. Mrs. Jones had been fired, and it was all because of me. My glorious return. Dad drove me to school my first day back from suspension, so I wouldn't have to ride the bus. I didn't want to sit there while Rebecca and Danny pretended to not know me. They probably still liked me, but now I was the girl who got everybody in trouble. They couldn't hang out with me anymore, or everybody would hate them too. I didn't blame them, but I just couldn't bear it. Not on my first day back. Dad knew I was scared to go back. He didn't even tell me to not suck on my braids. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but he dropped me off with a kiss right as the bell rang, so everyone was already in class when I walked down the hall. I was going to get a tardy slip, but I wasn't too worried about it. Not like I would have been before. I wasn't the good girl anymore. I had just been suspended for 3 days. Being on time for class didn't really seem all that important anymore. I was glad nobody was there when I got to my locker. Every day I went straight to my locker and put in the combination on my lock to open it. But the lock was gone. Of course. Mr. Crutchfield had cut it off. Suddenly, it was 3 days ago, and I was standing exactly where I was now, and I was watching Principal Banana open my locker and pull out all the banned books, and I was crying in front of everyone. I started to cry again now, but not as bad. Just a tear or two. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. I was going to have to open my locker again, put my books in, and get to class. At least now it would be empty, and I could put all my school books in there without having to lug them around. But it wasn't empty. When I opened my locker, folded notes spilled out of it onto the floor. Dozens of them. My locker mailbox had been stuffed full, and when more notes wouldn't fit, they'd piled up inside my locker. I opened one with pink, loopy handwriting. A.A. I'm sorry you got suspended. Hang in there. Jana. Another one said, Dear Amy Ann, my parents got a letter telling them I checked out a book from the BBLL, but they didn't care. It stinks that you got suspended. Principal Banana is a doofus. Kevin. They were all like that. 4th graders writing to tell me they were sorry I got suspended. That Principal Banana and the school board were wrong. That their parents had gotten the letter Mrs. Banana said she would write, but either their parents didn't care, or they didn't care that their parents were upset. I sat on the floor and opened every one. I cried again as I read them, but this time I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because everybody was being so nice. I stuffed all the letters into my locker with my books, dried my eyes, and opened the door to Mr. Vaughn's classroom. Mr. Vaughn was in the middle of reading out a new list of vocabulary words when everybody... I'm going to start that again. I stuffed all the letters into my locker with my books, dried my eyes, and opened the door to Mr. Vaughn's class. Mr. Vaughn was in the middle of reading out a new list of vocabulary words when every head in the room turned and saw me. Rebecca squealed, jumped up, and ran across the room to hug me. Danny came over too, but just stood nearby smiling at me. Everybody else broke out cheering and clapping. Everybody but Trey. I was stunned by my class's response. I was sure everyone was going to hate me. I tried to call, but your mom said you were grounded, Rebecca said. Did you see all the notes? Danny said, I told everyone the truth about why you got suspended. I didn't have a chance to answer them. Mr. Vaughn quieted everyone down and sent us to our seats. All right, he said. Welcome back, Amy Ann. As you can see, you were missed by everyone, including me. Now if we can try to focus on our new vocabulary list, the next word is valiant. As soon as we got to a time when we could all get up and move around, Rebecca and Danny and a few of the other students hurried over to me. I was worried that Mr. Vaughn was going to make us be quiet and separate us, but he pretended to be focused on something at his desk and not notice. I saw your picture on the news, Danny said, flicking his hair out of his face. Did you hear? Mrs. Jones was fired, Rebecca said. I know, I said. It still hurt to think about it. Did you guys get in trouble? Nah, Danny said. I mean, we got the letter home, like everybody else, but that's it. There's going to be a special school board meeting, someone else said. My mom said I can go. Me too, some of the others added. What are we going to do now? Danny asked me. What do you mean? I asked. What's next? Rebecca said. How do we get Mrs. Jones and all the books back? Get Mrs. Jones and the books back? How was that even possible? And how on earth did they think I was the one to know the answer? It was over. The BBLL was finished, and so was I. But I didn't say that. All I said was, I don't know. Well, just wait till Helen comes, Danny said. Then they'll be sorry. We don't have to wait till Helen comes, Rebecca said. We've got Amy Ann. Mr. Vaughn coughed, which told us it was time to get back to doing some real work. Rebecca and Danny smiled at me as they left, which made me feel even worse. What was everybody going to think of me when they realized there was nothing I could do, that there was nothing any of us could do, to fix everything? I looked up and saw Trey watching me from across the room. My fists clenched and my face got hot. In the 3 days since I'd been suspended, I'd felt sad, then sorry, then hopeless, then depressed. But now I was just mad, and I was starting to think that giving Trey a big old knuckle sandwich might just be worth another 3 days of suspension.
Hey guys, thanks for checking in and watching and listening to the book as we go on. Make sure that you're washing your hands and staying safe and staying clean during this time, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye.